Alright, so today we have this Stihl 026 that I just picked up. Need to get it running. It's not in bad shape, I would say. Pretty low usage. This is Stihl's smallest pro chainsaw. Comes with this nifty scabbard here. It's got a place for your scrunch right here, your chain file right here. On this side you have room for another wrench probably to take off the cover. So all-inclusive scabbard there. I haven't seen one of those before. It's probably more common, but again, I haven't seen one, so what a beauty. Pretty dirty. My son was already up here cleaning this off somewhat, but it was filthy dirty when it came to me. So he got it a little bit cleaned up. Not looking too bad, but obviously primary is get it running. Don't worry about cleaning it up a little later. Fortunately, this all came to me drained of fuel, so that's hopefully a good sign. It didn't leak. Hopefully, it didn't leak out, but that also maybe means it was stored without fuel, so maybe it'll just take, won't take too much to get this thing fired up. But that's what we're working on here in the next few minutes, so bear with me. I'll try and get the camera set up so it's in my way, but also able to work around it. Alright, so the first thing we'll do is just check out the fuel line inside the tank. I should be able to see in there. Okay. When I'm seeing, the fuel line doesn't look cracked. Fuel filter is intact. The tank looks clean. Again, hopefully it was put away dry. Looking good so far. Old school Stihl caps before those dumb flip tops. Take this cover off, rotate that knob a little bit, slide it up. Air filter. There's a little clip right here to pull that off. Doesn't look too dirty. You can tell it's been sitting for years. We got cobwebs and some mildew inside here. Yeah, pretty dirty, but switches seem to work fine as far as the function of the switch here. All the way down is choke, which holds the throttle down. Up in location, still throttle down. And then off of there, that releases the throttle. So that's looking good too. Got good compression. I'm sure it'll need some tuning in the carb. But for now, let's take a look at the other side. Okay, it's got a Stihl Farm Boss chain. I thought that was usually for the 290. So I'm not sure if this is an original bar and chain for the 026 or not. Give it a go. A little tight rotating there. Brake seems to work. Pull this cover off real quick. I don't want to not know what's underneath here. And fire, but this is the scrunch from my leaf blower, but it'll work the same. Doubt they have captive nuts in this older saw. Nope. Not captive. Okay. Alright. Yeah, it's been sitting for a bit. Got a little chain's a little tight. Yeah, just been sitting for years. But chain catch doesn't look like it's been caught too many times or hit. I don't see any major oil leaks. It's pretty dirty inside this oiling slot here. See if we can pull off this. Just want to take a look, make sure the oiler's not gunked up or anything before we run this thing. Yeah, again, just some aluminum corrosion. Let me get a better tool for that. Probably run this thing for a little bit without this side cover on. just to make sure the oil's coming out here properly. And we spend some more time cleaning this face up here to make sure we have the right port open to make sure oil's getting to the bar. Don't want to smoke a bar if we don't have to. Again, this saw was kind of given to me, and if I get it fixed up and sell it, split the profits with the owner. So that's kind of the setup for this particular saw. So that being said, get some fuel, a little bit of bar oil in there, and go give it a go. All right, always shake up your premix fuel before pouring it in, just to make sure the oil didn't settle out while it's been sitting for a week or two. Rule of thumb is never mix fuel for more than a month out. If the oil really separates or breaks down inside the gasoline or not, but that's kind of the rule of thumb that I try to live by, but again, it doesn't always work out that way. Let's get a little bar oil in here as well. Going to fill it up. I don't want to waste oil if I need to get in here and take apart the oil pump later, so just enough to test it. Alright, for now we'll keep this cover on. Again, this cover slides down, and then it's oiling, that's good. Definitely something going with the fuel system. Okay. I don't think it's getting enough fuel. I'm not sure if the carb is jammed up in the metering diaphragm there. But again, oiling good. Okay, well, like so many of the other saws that I picked up recently, fires up, but it's starving for fuel. Oiler's working fine. I really strongly suspect that the metering diaphragm in the carb is stiffened and therefore not allowing the right amount of fuel to the carb. I've tried messing with the carb settings and it's just not happening. So anyways, we're gonna have to pull the carb off and do a carb rebuild. I don't have a kit right now, so I'll have to order one of those in. So, all right, well, I don't have the carb kit yet, but I decided I'll just pull this carb off and just check that metering diaphragm, see if that is the actual problem or not. What's weird is the saw does not have, at least on the, yeah, I don't see a high adjustment screw on this particular carb. If we look over here, we have the idle, low, but there's nothing in the high slot up here. I'm not even sure if you can see in there, but see the screw in the low, but there's nothing in the high. So I'm not sure if this particular saw or this year manufacturer didn't get one, but we'll take a look in here, see if we'll see some fuel leaking right here. Yeah, so okay. Maybe it's the carb, maybe it's a fuel line coming out of the fuel tank. Oh, which I was hoping it wasn't going to be because we're paying that to replace. But there is fuel up in here, which could mean that the fuel line's cracked and not getting fuel enough to the carb, even if the carb is working properly. Always something. But yeah, this is pretty well saturated in here. Cut off wires. Pulled the fuel line off and it's still flexible and doesn't seem cracked, but then why is fuel right now leaking out? It's interesting. Alright, let's pull this carb off, take a look. Alright, we'll pull the two. Why is this? Just. Okay, there was pressure in the fuel tank that was pushing fuel up. I don't know why that would be. Anyway, we'll pull this carb off. 8mm is the size of these nuts. Smell of fuel in this shop now is pretty strong. So maybe this fuel vent up here is also clogged. I'm not sure if it's even replaceable. Looks like it might slide out. Okay, yeah. Because why would that tank be pushing fuel up after it was turned off? So have to take a look at cleaning this vent off as well. Okay. Throttle linkage there. There's another fuel line. Maybe that's not fuel line, but diaphragm, the suction line, vent hose line down there. Let's see if we pull this thing straight out. All right, in order to get this throttle linkage off, I'll have to pull this top cover off. There's a screw underneath here. It's a flathead or a Torx, I think. So. Just keep an eye out. Hold this black cover down. Since there's a spring underneath here, so we'll make sure we don't lose anything. This opens up. I've never done this before. Okay, there goes a screw in the floor. So this handle rotate up. I gotta pay close attention to this because I've never done this before. Okay, there's a spring. Over here. That rides on that piece. Okay, so hopefully I remember how to do that later. Play back the video if not. Pull this throttle linkage out there. Okay, now the carb should just come straight out with the throttle linkage attached. Okay. There it is. Again, there's no high idle or high screw on here. And this thing keeps wanting to push fuel out the top here. So I gotta clean that vent out a little better later. Okay. Put that back in place just so. Now the metering screw should be on this side right here. Actual Stihl carburetor. Let me get a Phillips head. Take off this side of the carb. Take a look at this diaphragm, see if it's crispy and stiff or if it's still soft and pliable. I don't have a kit with me right now to replace this part. But at least I'll know if it is this diaphragm or not by pulling this apart. Okay, carefully. Alright, so there was a little bit of sawdust in the back of this diaphragm, but it still feels fairly soft. Not too stiff. I'm afraid to pull this gasket off because I feel like it's gonna tear, but I think we need to do that regardless. Really nice there. Still pretty soft. That's surprising. We'll clean this carb out. We'll see if we can set that height. Maybe the float just was off. We'll clean out the needle. Yeah, some. Doesn't feel too bad. Again, we'll take a look. All right, so it's a WT carburetor. That doesn't feel that bad. That's pretty close. It's sticking up. I don't think it needs any adjustment. Not finding the smoking gun yet for why it's running so awful. I can't stand pulling these needle valves out there, pain in the neck to put back in. There's the needle. It still feels sort of soft. Again. Okay, I may have found a problem right in here. It's a crack in the fuel line adapter, if you see that there. So, I don't think that's supposed to be there like that. I don't know if I have a spare one either. But it definitely should not be cracked like that. Let's see if I can get this off and look at my spare parts kit for replacement. Okay, there goes that part. I think I get a better look at it now. That crack does go through. Could be part of the problem. Okay, it's the next day, although it was only the second for you. And I got my new carburetor in for the Stihl 26. One of these import jobs. Comes with a bunch of stuff I really didn't need. I just plan on replacing the carb. But it's always good to have some spare parts. This might be the vent I'm going to replace. Let me see. Is this? Oh, it's a spark plug. Never mind. This vent seems to be, I don't know, not working because gas keeps wanting to push up in here. See how this is wet right here? You probably can't see, but with this gas cap closed, gas is being pushed out and the thing's just sitting here. So I'm not sure if This is the vent, not just another filter. Okay, well, figure out how to clean that vent. But for now, the whole garage stinks like gasoline. And we have a replacement carb. So, new versus old. It's the right direction for that. Right pipe in the bottom. The replacement carb has a high screw as well. The original one did not. Did come with gaskets, but I don't know why, because there's a rubber grommet inside here that where the saw attaches. So not really sure why we would need that. Okay. Carb goes like this. First thing I want to do is we'll install this throttle linkage like so. As we slide the carb in, we got to make sure we line up this bottom port with the suction off the crank down there. Something doesn't seem right there, let me see. Kind of work this in, make sure we're not catching anything. Oh, this throttle adjustment screw is sticking out a little too much. Okay. As we slide this in, we'll line up this hose in the bottom. Okay, that goes right in there like so. Take the fuel line, put that. That on. Okay, looking good there. Throttle goes in like that. Okay, that it goes there. Now next thing, we'll put the handle back on. This spring right here. Just bring this camera down a little bit so you can see. We'll rotate down. And underneath the safety lever right there, I think. Seems a bit tight. Let me see. Let's go like that. Yeah, it's a little better there. Okay. So that spring goes under that arm. Waste your time. No, it's just a matter of getting that right, or get this screw that goes up into this handle. Holding the handle out with one hand so the spring doesn't shoot out again. Get a flathead or a star bit. We'll tighten this thing in, no problem. Okay, now, camera back down. Carb's on there. I feel like there's enough resistance there with the spring. Safety's working fine. Why don't we install these two 8mm nuts on the outside of this carb here, huh? Again, don't go steroid man here crazy, just finger tight, get the rubber gasket. Okie dokie. Now, these
nuts get lined up. I don't know, I guess they're captive nuts, but also sort of washers that help the air filter cover lock in. So I wonder how many pulls it'll take to get started. I haven't adjusted anything yet, and of course my idle is probably off now at this point, since I had to adjust that in. And this kit did come with all the other hoses, fuel lines, full fuel filters, gaskets. But unfortunately, it did not come with a new vent right here, which I think is maybe a problem. So we'll take this off and see if we can. Something with it. That blows air through no problem. So how that works. Definitely, seems like this is all in pressure. Actually, I did tap it up, bend it down. Sure, not this one right here. That's up on top here. Okay, now here's the cap, and these two little fingers here interlock with these captive nuts that are on there if it's installed correctly. So push that down, push it in, but covers is on. Okay, well let's throw the bar and chain on it now and give it a run. All right, bar and chain installed. This chain's a little stiff in some areas, so I'm sure we're going to have to come back and tighten this thing up again. But for now, I just want to see if it'll start and run, and this chain will break in and then get really loose. So after running a little bit, make sure we tighten it up quickly so we don't throw a chain off by accident and break something. Chain this up a little easy. Tighten that chain up again. As promised, that chain was a little sticky. So chain will continue to loosen up too. Alright, let's go inside and take a look. Okay, looks like we're slinging up some dirty oil up here. It's probably rust from the chain. Slinging around there, just getting everything cleared off from sitting for so many years. So pull the side cover off just to make sure nothing's wrong with anything going on inside there, and then we'll call this all good. Alright, I'll turn the camera on so we see what's going on under the cover. Same time you are. Ooh, yucky, yucky. What is all this skunk? It's bar oil mixed with, I'm guessing, moisture or some rust from the chain. Plenty of oil in this chain. I cleaned out the lubrication spot here earlier too, so this chain or saw seems to oil pretty heavy. There's an adjustment somewhere I can turn the oiling down a little bit on this 026, so I'll look at that. Okay, this 026 has got the spot for the adjustment, but I don't see any sort of screw hanging out there. I'll have to research this off camera. Maybe this saw did not have an adjustable pump, so I don't see any sort of screw in there. I don't feel anything inside there. So I'm quite certain there's no adjustable pump here, and maybe it oil's a little heavy, or maybe there was some junk in the oil tank, although it looked dry when we first started. The oil coming out of this oil pump spot up here looks like pretty good oil. This is the bar oil I put in, so I'm pretty confident it's just slinging out rust from the chain. So this oil's mixing in with the chain that was rusty and just slinging it out. So anyway, I'll clean this up, give it a test ride later. If it doesn't really spin out any more brown gook, there will not be another video on this saw. If there is still a bunch of gook, then maybe I'll have to figure out what that is. So again, if this video ends here, thanks for watching. If there's another video, that means I had to fix something else before I attempt to sell it again. I don't like to sell things that I'm not certain is good. So there's the clean bar oil coming out of the port there. It looks pretty good. I'm pretty sure it's just junk from sitting. That chain was pretty well caked up and some links were kind of rusted pretty stiff, so it took a while to get that cleared out, and that rust mixing with this oil could have just caused it to cake up like this. So anyway, maybe that's normal for the saw, maybe not. If you know anything that I should be doing differently, send a comment in the comment section and I'll take a read, I'll take a look at it. But for now, I think this saw may be done. We'll clean up a little bit, give it some test cuts, and send it on down the road. Alright, well this chain, it feels a whole lot better. It's loose and flows freely. Bar looks good, the guide looks good, so I'm pretty sure this chain was just rusted before and it flung out all that junk in there, so I think we're good. So we'll see. Stripping again some of that brown rusty oil. Alright, back with the Stihl 026. It's leaking oil like crazy. See if there's any oil left in the tank. I let it sit. Okay, there's some oil in the bottom of the tank still. I let it sit like this last night on its side like that. Left the caps opened. I came out to that. So this thing is leaking oil. It's the non-pro version, so it does not have the adjustable oiler on it. But I did read about this little vent that might be clogged up on this side over here. So we'll pull this bar guide cover off. It's over oiling like crazy, and then of course it's leaking when it's sitting. So When I say over oiling like crazy, it may be normal because I'm not cutting into wood, but what I've heard is there's a, right inside this hole right here, can you see right there? Sometimes this gets clogged up. Little check valve, little ball detent in there. Should be spring loaded ball detent, I think. Let's try and get that check valve moving. A little bit of pitting around this face right here. So this has to have good contact between that and the plate that goes over top of it to make sure the oil comes out into the bar and doesn't seep down here. Yeah, see right there, look at that. Oil's flowing out of there when that's sitting there. See that? Oil's flowing right out that check valve there. So there's something not right in there. It's been a few days since I last videotaped on this, but it won't be 3 days for you. Essentially, I found out that this check valve is leaking oil out of it when it's sitting still. So I went ahead and ordered a couple from Stihl. They were like $4.99 each. Part number 1128-640-9100. I'll show you how to get this out. First things first, we have to drain out the oil from the oil tank, which I'll do off camera. Okay, so the oil is drained out. It's empty. And so what I read was all we have to do is punch this into the tank. I'm probably a smaller punch. That's a 5/16, probably would have fit. And this one is, well, whatever punch size you have, try it. Okay, there it is. It went into the tank. See if we can. This is why we dumped out the tank before, so we wouldn't have too much of a mess when we take this part out. Just fish it out off camera. Alright, so here is the part, and there's a little check valve inside here that's probably jammed up. That light didn't help you at all. The replacement. Turn this thing back around. We put the replacement in the same direction as we pull that one out. So obviously this side faces out. And you can't see it on camera, but there is a little check valve, a little spring and detent in there. All these parts were like I said, $4.99 at the Stihl dealership. Let's make sure we're clean in there and not full of junk. All right. So we'll put that in there. This part pretty much goes flush with the face here, maybe in a little bit. Okay, I think we're about there. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do with this particular saw is this surface here has a little bit of pitting in it. It's aluminum face here. Maybe it's, yeah, probably aluminum, not magnesium. I'm going to put a tiny dab of our RTV gasket maker just around the outside here. So when this plate is on there, it forces the oil through this slot right here, which goes onto the bar. Just a little bit, if there's some pitting there, it may try and push oil out and get down in here instead of being pushed to the bar. So when I put this on, I'll clean this all up with some alcohol and kind of get that cleaned up and ready for a little bit of RTV. So that's next. Cleaning this face off now. Trying to make it good and acceptable for that gasket maker or RTV. clean the face of this part here too. Alright, so I just have some blue RTV gasket maker. Again, I'm gonna just want to get a very fine amount on this surface right here. I don't want to have it clog up. It'll be squeezed into the actual port where the oil will push out, so just a very small amount. This guide, just look at it as it goes on. See if it squeezes. Okay. We'll take our little applicator here and just clean out anything here. Actually, I want a little gasket maker. We'll hope it seals up and oils the chain and not the rest of this inside of this cover like it was doing before. This screw is a keeper just to keep this guide plate on there, but the bar is really what clamps down there. And we'll just go inside and make sure that's flow. Okay. What we'll do now is we'll stick some oil back in this machine, put the bar and chain back on, and go give it a run, see if it's not going to leak oil everywhere. And then we'll leave it overnight to see if it's, again, not going to make this giant mess in this cardboard like it did before. Alright, it's the next day, and checking out the chainsaw. Looks like we still have a little bit of an oil leak there. That, compared to that overnight, is better, but this valve that I replaced may not have been the only source of leak. So we'll take this off one more time, check out, see if we see any cracks in the oil pump line. Hope not, because I really don't feel like fixing that, but we'll see. Okay, oil is down here, and even up here. There's the mounting face. So I thought I cleaned that off pretty good before I mounted it, so wow. I don't know if that's fresh oil, if that's oil that was in the bar that kind of just ran down over here overnight and sat down in here. So I think best case, I'll go give it a run, give it a cut, and then bring it back, see if it's covered in oil again before I start digging into pulling the clutch off or anything like that. So we'll do that. Okay, I just gave it some test runs. Quick look under here. I do see some oil still coming out down here from that location. It's a lot drier than it was. This is just a heavy oily machine, I think. This 026, it's not the Pro version, therefore it does not have the adjustable oiler. And I think it just oils real heavy. From what I read, it's constantly oiling when it's idling, pumping oil in. So I'll take this cover off, take a look at what's underneath there real quick. Alright. As you can see, there's oil all up in here. The bar is definitely getting oil. The chain is sopping wet, so take this off. Huh. It's still just drenched in here. I'm pretty sure I did a good job of sealing around this bar guide. It might just be a really heavy oiling saw. I'm not really sure what else to do. This one. Yeah, the hose going up there looks alright. I just think it oil's heavy. This saw just doesn't have an adjustment and throws a lot of oil. I don't see anything wrong inside here. I'm not sure if I blocked your view there, but the hose right there going up to the oil tank or in from the oil tank is fine. Doesn't look too wet back there. I think it's just coming out this oiler pretty fast. So I've heard these saws oil really heavily, and honestly at idle it's oiling, so I had that saw at idle quite a bit. It's just spreading oil out here. So alright, this saw's done. I pulled everything off, pulled the clutch off. The oil lines were fine. Again, what I read is just a heavy oiling saw with a pump that runs even when the saw's at idle. So I think we're good here. The chain's sharp enough. I made some test cuts with it. Runs pretty good. So we'll get this up for sale and let it move on to the next that hopefully happy customer. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good one.